2000s. Lots to choose from. We're going to run it down. I'm going to give you a few honorable mentions of the next of the 2000s. From there, we're going to go 10 through 6, give you a little bit. And then 1 through 5, we'll go a little bit more into depth about, because that's where it gets a little bit closer, in my opinion. Some of these honorable mentions were kind of hard to not put in the top 10, but I know there's going to be somebody out there. You guys want to argue about 6 through 10. You want to argue about honorable mentions. I'm down. Follow the socials. Do what you got to do. But I'm down. Honorable mentions go out to Marshall Faulk, Jerome Bettis, who was at the end of his career, towards the end of his career in the 2000s. Eddie George, also towards the end of his career in the 2000s. Larry Johnson, just a little sneak preview. I did put Priest Holmes in the top 10. But Larry Johnson, honorable mention. Frank Gore, honorable mention. Adrian Peterson just came into the league late 2000s. Same thing with Marshawn Lynch. And the Cadillac Williams was really, really tough not to put in the top 10. But when I tell you who was in the top 10, I'm sure you guys will agree. Ronnie Brown is number 10, in my opinion. I picked him because he played from 2005 to 2009. So he played more than half of the 2000s. He had one 1,000-yard season and then 2 seasons with 900-plus yards. He only played in 7 games, 2007, and still had over 600 yards. The criteria I went by stats. I went by impact on his team. And then I also kind of, if I went just by those two, everybody's top 10 would be exactly the same, no matter what position we're talking about or anything like that. So I kind of put a little bit of bias in what I like the best. And Ronnie Brown in that Wildcat offense with Ricky Williams was insane. He had crazy amounts of spark, and that's something too. In these 4 or 5 seasons in the 2000s he played just about all of them with Ricky Williams, minus the 2 seasons that he retired and then was got suspended. He played all of them with Ricky Williams. He was in a committee backfield, and he's still putting up a 1,000-yard season, 2 900-plus yard seasons, and a 600-yard season where he only played 7 games. So you just put it in perspective, 7 games is less than half of the season, meaning if he kept up that same production throughout the rest of the season, he would have got 1,400 yards that season. So very impressive from Ronnie Brown. Number 9, I got Fred Taylor. A guy a lot of people would like to see higher up on this list. He played all of the 2000s. Every year in the 2000s, he had 6 seasons with 1,000-plus yards. He averaged 107 yards per game in the year 2000. And he had 3 seasons with over 300 receiving yards. Number 8, I got Thomas Jones. Also played every season in the 2000s. He had 5 seasons with 1,000-plus yards. He had 948 yards in 2004. In 2002, he only played 9 games and still rushed for 511 yards. And in 2003, he only started 3 games, and he still rushed for 627 yards as a backup. So rushing for over 500 yards as a backup, only starting 3 games is very impressive. I got him at number 8. Another guy, a lot of people say top 3 in the 2000s. Very, very impactful for the Colts, for the Cardinals. It went to the Super Bowl. Edgerrin James, 2000, 2009, every year of the 2000s. He had a 1,700 yard rushing, or 1,700 yards or more rushing in 2000 with 13 touchdowns. He had 6 seasons with over 100 yards or over 1,000 yards. And he had 2 of those seasons that were over 1,500 yards. He had 4 seasons with over 300 receiving yards, and he had almost 600 receiving yards in the year 2000, the same year which he racked up 1,700 rushing yards. Number 6, fan favorite. He only went to 2005. Curtis Martin. 5 out of 6 of his seasons in the 2000s were 1,000-yard seasons, obviously in the back end of his career. He had 4 of those seasons with 300-plus receiving yards. I'm looking at Edgerrin James. Sorry. He played and started all 16 of his games from the year 2000 to 2005 when he retired. So longevity was Curtis Martin. When you think Curtis Martin, you think longevity, you think production throughout his entire career, because in his last season, he was still getting, 600-700 yards rushing. and he played exceptionally well throughout his entirety of career. I think Curtis Martin, one of the biggest snubs from the top 5, which brings us to the top 5 running backs of the 2000s. We'll go a little bit more into depth on why we picked these guys. Priest Holmes coming in at number 5. I kind of played around. I think the number 5 spot was reserved for either Larry Johnson or Priest Holmes. The difference between the two is the touchdowns, 100%. They were in a shared backfield from 2004 to 2007. Priest Holmes ran for 1555 yards and 8 touchdowns in 2001, 1615 yards and 21 touchdowns in 2002, and then 1420 yards and 27 touchdowns in 2003. He only played 3 years with Larry Johnson from 2004 to 2007. He didn't play more than 8 games in any of those seasons. So he was injured. That's the reason Larry Johnson kind of got his shine from 2004 to 2007, was because Priest Holmes was injured. And then once he came back, of course, then Priest Holmes left after 2007. So then Larry Johnson got the helm, and 2008, 2009 were really productive years for Larry Johnson. But I think those 21 touchdown seasons and that 27 touchdown season for Priest Holmes is what cements him here at the number 5 spot. In 2004, when Larry Johnson first came to Kansas City, Priest Holmes rushed for 892 yards and 14 touchdowns. So the first year they brought him into a committee system, he still rushed for almost 900 yards, and he still scored double-digit touchdowns. He's got over 600 receiving yards in 2001, 2002, and 2003. When people think receiving backs, they think Saquon Barkley, they think guys like that. This guy, Priest Holmes, was one of the originators of the receiving backs. 600 yards is insane. He did it in 3 seasons. He won Offensive Player of the Year in 2001, 2002, and 2003, and he won MVP of the entire league in 2002 and 2003. Not much more you could say. 100% deserving of the top 5. And Larry Johnson, although his accolades and things like that matched up pretty well, I think he benefited a lot from Priest Holmes' injuries later in his career, which is why I kind of went with Priest Holmes. Priest Holmes came in, he did his thing at Kansas City, which was not a good team at the time, and he produced MVP numbers for a long time, and he even played exceptionally well after Larry Johnson joined the team. Number 4, Chris Johnson, CJ2K. He drafted 2008, only played 2 seasons in the 2000s. So he played in 2008. He rushed for 1,228 yards. And he had 9 touchdowns. For a rookie, that's insane. Over 1,000 yards in his rookie season, 9 touchdowns. I'm pretty sure they had, I think Liddell White might have came after. So I think they had, I can't remember what the guy's name was, but they had a running back. I think CJ kind of came in as a backup at first. They've seen how explosive he was. They've seen how fast this guy was. He became a starter, over 1,200 yards in his rookie season. And then in his 2009 season, he broke the rushing record with 2,006 yards on the season and 14 touchdowns. He had 503 receiving yards that year as well. He was one of the fastest running backs to ever play the game of football. He had the combine 40-yard dash record for a very long time. He averaged 125 yards per game in 2009, and he won MVP in his rookie season in 2008, and an Offensive Player of the Year in the year of 2009. I really would like to see. I'm going to look that up really quick because that's very. I mean, for a guy who broke the rushing record, why wouldn't he? Let's see. Who won MVP of NFL 2009? It might have been Drew Brees. Then you go to Super Bowl that year. Peyton Manning. Now that's acceptable. I mean, you got to kind of go quarterbacks. I'm surprised that as many running backs as we're going to list here won MVP. Because I know, back in those days, early 2000s, it was really rush heavy. But still, quarterbacks, Heisman's, MVPs, things like that, quarterbacks normally take the cake. But 2,000 rush yards, Chris Johnson, definitely number 4. And a lot of people are going to say he should be in front of this guy at number 3 just because of the off-field antics. And that is Ricky Williams. Ricky Williams played every year of the 2000s. He retired in 2004 because of this marijuana shit. Came back 2005, was suspended for marijuana in 2006. He had over 1,000 rushing yards in every season from 2000 to 2003. Then the marijuana shit happens. He retires 2004, comes back 2005 for like a game. Doesn't even start that game. Doesn't really play. They got like 15 yards in that one game. 2006 is suspended. He comes back after that. Let's see. He played 12 games in 2005, but he only started 3 of them. But he's still, in those 12 games, still rushed for 743 yards in 2005. Scored 6 touchdowns. He only played 1 game in 2007. That's the year that I got it wrong. He only played 1 game in 2007, coming off of the suspension. And then in 2009, he played all 16 games, started 7, rushed for 100 or 1,100 yards, over 1,100 yards, and 11 touchdowns. This is a guy, if you go throughout his career, had MVP all-star type numbers from 2000 to 2003. Retires, comes back in 2005, puts up almost 800 rushing yards in 2005, gets suspended in 2006, doesn't play 2007, has kind of an iffy year in 2008, and then 2009, people were like, Ricky Williams is done. He's coming off a suspension. He didn't play good last year, comes out and rushes over 1,100 yards. This guy is a guy that if I was being opinionated, he's one of my favorite NFL players of all time, I would have put him at number 1. But these 2 guys at number 1 and 2 are guys that, their stats and their accolades, you can't hide them from being 1 and 2. Ricky Williams also won Offensive Player of the Year in 2002, his middle year of his MVP run, which very surprised he didn't win Offensive Player of the Year in 2003. But it is what it is. Number 2, I got. Yes. I don't recognize the handle. You used to have a different handle. If you're saying long time no see, I don't recognize Home Wrecking Knee Knocker. But let me know what your old handle is. It's definitely good to see you here commenting. But yeah, UFC 275 main card predictions will be going live right after this. I've got number 2 and number 1 of the top 10 running backs of 2000 left, and then we're going to go on to UFC 275 predictions. So number 2, I got. Oh, what's happening? Yeah, I remember you, brother. Good to see you, silly diva. Number 2, Clinton Portis. Clinton Portis played from 2002 to 2009. He played a little bit longer, but those were the years he played in the 2000s. He rushed for more than 1,000 yards in 6 out of 8 of those years, and 1,500 or more yards in 2002 and 2003. He scored double-digit touchdowns in 4 out of 8 of those seasons. And in 2006, he only played 8 games, but still had over 500 rushing yards, which means he was on course for a 1,000-yard season that year as well. He had, in the other season that he didn't rush for over 1,000 yards, he rushed for 494 yards and averaged 122 yards per game rushing in 2003. Clinton Portis played exceptionally for Washington when he first got there. He went to Denver and went off. He's known for having the WWE title belt on the sidelines. He was a character in the NFL. He was a power rusher, extremely elusive. And I think he gets his number 2 spot, not because of any kind of accolades or anything like that. The man completely went off for 6 out of the 8 seasons he played in the 2000s. He had over 1,000 yards in 2 of those seasons. He had over 1,500 yards. And then in 2 other seasons, so in the 2 seasons that he didn't have over 1,000 yards, he played 8 games only. So he played half of the season. Obvious number 2. I think when you go Clinton Portis, Ricky Williams, Chris Johnson, CJ2K, those 3 positions are all interchangeable, but there's nobody that should be in front of this number 1 pick, number 1 best running back of the 2000s, Damien Tomlinson Lt. He played from 2001 on. He didn't play in 2000. He played and started in all 16 of the games, regular season games, from 2001 to 2008. So all of except for the last year. He rushed for over 1,000 yards in all 8 of those seasons. He had over 1,500 yards in 3 of those seasons and rushed for 1,815 yards and 28 touchdowns in 2006. He had double-digit touchdowns in every single season of the 2000s. He averaged over 100 yards per game in 2002, 2003, and 2006. He had over 300 yards receiving in every season from 2001 and 2008. He had 728 receiving yards in 2003, 508 receiving yards in 2006, and he won Offensive Player in the Year 2003, 2004, and 2006, and also won MVP for his rushing abilities in 2006 as well. So LaDainian Tomlinson, there would be no beating it. He went to the Jets later in his career. That kind of tainted people's thoughts of LaDainian Tomlinson. But there's no fathom of the imagination that would say LaDainian Tomlinson was not the best running back of the 2000s. Once again, I'm sorry, Marshall Faulk, Jerome Bettis, Frank Gore, Cadillac Williams, Adrian Peterson, Marshawn Lynch, Eddie George. Love all you guys. I thought strongly about putting you guys there. I think Ronnie Brown was interchangeable with a few of those guys, Cadillac Williams, Frank Gore, guys like that. But my top 10 is my top 10. It's personalized to me. So it is what it is. That is my top 10 running backs of the 2000s. Make sure you stay tuned. In a few minutes, we'll be going live for the UFC 275 main card preview. Until next time, stay barbecued. You guys know what the fuck it is.